Okay.
Good evening. This is the July 27th, 2023 meeting of the Needham Conservation Commission. I'm Dave Harrer, Conservation Commission's chair. I'm now going to confirm that members and staff are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Sue?
Aye.
Reed? Fred?
Yes, here.
Peter? Peter?
Here.
Allison? And Paulina?
Here.
Debbie?
Here.
And Clay?
Here.
Okay, this open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. As such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a public accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting of the Needham Conservation Commission, we're convening via Zoom app as posted on the town website, and which identifies how the public may join. The general public is allowed and encouraged to ask questions during the meeting when directed by the commission chair and through the use of the raised hand feature associated with the Zoom meeting app. Those that have questions or comments regarding a particular hearing may be called upon in the order they raise their hand. So please be patient. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this body and are available on the Conservation Commission website. Public is encouraged to follow along using a posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Before we go to the first item on the agenda, let me cover some ground rules for effective and clear communication and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each hearing on the agenda. I'll introduce the applicant and their consultant to begin the project presentation. After they conclude the presentation, I will call on each member of the commission to provide any comment or questions. Please hold until your name is called. After comments or questions from the commission members, I will solicit questions or comments from staff and then from the public. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you, and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So let's move to the agenda. We are going to take items out of order, and the first item will be the Southfield Court pond discussion. And who do we have here to represent Southfield Court pond?
Janet Baum.
Hi, Janet. Please
Do
proceed.
you want me to give just a little background before you?
Yes.
Okay. So I assume most of you are familiar with Southfield Court Pond. They've been managing the algae and other things in the pond for many years, and we've extended their permit and such. And the commission last year decided that they wanted to see the community put some effort into more sustainable improvements to the pond. And part of their order of conditions specified that the homeowners association members and their representative shall attend a Conservation Commission meeting in the fall of 2022 to discuss and outline their means and methods of working towards a more sustainable management of the pond going forward. Suggestions include the potential additive of native plantings along the banks of the pond to help filter surface water prior to discharge into the pond and curtailing the use of fertilizers within the watershed. So Janet is here to talk about the efforts that they have started putting into making the pond more sustainable, and also requesting that they're allowed to start doing some management, I think specifically the algae. We do have some pictures that Janet did give to us that we can put up during her discussion. And take it away, Janet.
Okay, so I did not get notice of the October meeting last year. I'm one of the board members until after it was over. So that's why I didn't attend. And this year we met with Deb and with the manager for our association and another board member and somebody from a company called Water and Wetlands, Joe Ornato. We've stopped using the other company that we had used, which was Solitude Management. In the meantime, what we have done is this year we sent notice to all the homeowners. There's 12 of us in the association. And 3 of the houses absolutely have away on the other side, don't border the pond at all. There is one house that borders the pond that is not in our association. But we sent a letter to all our homeowners that effective immediately, we were going to stop fertilizing in the backyards of those houses that border the pond, including 3 houses that, or 4 houses that their drainage does go into the pond downhill. And we stopped mowing. We started at about 3 feet from the edge of the pond. Probably almost about 2 months ago now. And what happened was the little path around the pond is not even 4 feet wide, so you could no longer walk around the pond. Plus, in back of my house, it made my backyard roughly 10 feet from the edge of the mowed part. And all the grass was, pollen was blowing into my house if I had my windows open. So we cut it back to about 2 to 3 feet. I have very bad asthma, and pollen from the grass was really bothering me. And I've been on high dose steroids to kind of cope with it. So we now have no fertilizer. We have, in all our homes, we've not been able to get in contact with the people, the other house. So they still probably have some fertilizer. There's water that comes from a pipe, we believe from across South Street that drains into the pond. And Deb, I know, saw that when she was here. And we don't know where it comes from and what it drains particularly. I presume it's fertilizer and runoff from the streets and the houses across South Street. We had a water analysis done, which I sent you a copy of. And there is that was done close to the beginning when we started all this action. There is a lot of nitrogen, not so much phosphorus. One of the things the company suggested, Water and Wetlands, was a filter at the end of the pipe, which we have not yet done because the original filter he proposed was mostly to eliminate phosphorus, which according to the water quality study was not the major issue. And we contacted 2 companies to try to give us a plan for plantings around the pond, which is less than half an acre. It was, one company never responded. I've called them multiple times. The other company sent us a proposal, which I sent you in the packet. And they wanted like $7,000 just for the plan. our budget for the pond in the past has been $3,600 for the year, and we don't always use all that. And the rest of the board did not want to approve the $7,000 plan proposal to give us plan for plantings. They thought that was above our budget constraints for 12 houses. So in the meantime, the pond is totally green. I sent you some pictures that Deb or Clay can show you. The pond is totally green right now. The turtles that come up are covered in green. That's the pond. The pond was originally fed mostly by rainwater and drainage from watering, and partially by that pipe. And before I moved in, there had been a well. There's a turtle. There had been a well that was at the other end of the property that did add some water to it. That well has stopped working. The pump is broken. And we had some people look at it and they said they wouldn't even put a new pump in till they dug to see if there was any water under there. And again, the proposals for that were quite expensive. So basically it's fed by rainwater, which we've had plenty of this year, and runoff from any watering. And it's totally green. There are frogs and lots of turtles. I took a picture yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to send her 2 days ago. There are geese, there are ducks, there's a blue heron who comes, or two who come to visit every day. The blue heron the other day was in the edge of the grass and was diving at the grass because he didn't know where the water was because it was so green. And we'd like to be able to do something, to do some treatment and work on a little bit less expensive plan to start some plantings. I know we have a list of acceptable plants, and I think we would agree, and I could get everybody on the board and then the rest of the homeowners to agree, if we could use our company and put some of the plants along the edge of the pond. The pond, since I moved here in 2015, has eroded about 2.5 feet of my backyard. So it's getting closer to my house, which is also of concern. It's only about 12 to 13 feet away from my patio right now. And so I'm asking for permission to start doing a little planting and some safer treatments using this new company. And I think the person who heads it, who I've met with, is very amenable to that. We'd like to see, the wildlife continue to be there. The deer come and eat, drink out of it sometimes. So do the coyotes occasionally. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, well, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? Sue? Reed or Sue?
I'm not sure how far we are into this. And can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
What I was gonna say, I'm not sure how far we are. I'm not quite sure where we stand on it. I mean, it sounds like it does need treatment, and a planting plan around the pond would be a good thing.
So they were essentially required to come back to us with plans for sustainability for the pond, because the commission wasn't looking to them to keep treating it. And they were looking for them to do plantings and basically come back to us with a plan. And then it must have been last summer that we did approve them to do some work. There were supposedly cattails and other vegetation in the pond that we were going to allow them to remove some of it. But then when I went there, none of that vegetation actually existed any longer. So I think that was the last time that we had discussed this. And Allison, you probably remember.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners?
I think Allison probably is. Can you talk, Allison? Yeah, we can't hear you.
It sounds like there should be definitely a treatment plan and a planting plan around the pond. But is there a company that would for sure and feasibly do that they found?
Go ahead, Janet.
I've worked with this guy who actually years ago worked for Solitude and who left Solitude because he wanted to do better treatment for ponds, and he treats some other ponds in the Needham, Dedham area. And what he's done has apparently been acceptable, and he knows we don't want a lot of chemical kind of things. And his suggestion was we do some possibly filter on that pipe coming in, and he knows that we're not fertilizing. And I think he would be reasonable to use to do some of it. And he gave me the names of the two companies that could do the plans. So the question is whether, since the 7,000 estimate was so high for this small pond, if we could begin to do some planting ourselves with native plants and use some chemical treatment to keep, there's no running water is the problem. It's all standing and what fills in. But the animals all use it. And, you know, I fall asleep every night to this chorus of frogs all night long. And we'd like to keep them here if possible, and to keep some pond going. But obviously the green is, you know, not very good for the animals. I can't imagine, because they get no sunlight into the water right now.
All right, Fred, do you have a comment?
I was wondering, is there no outflow to this pond?
There is a little outflow. There's a dam that's been there for years and years and years, sort of. It's like a wood board stuff, and it does trickle into a little teeny stream that goes to another little teeny pond, and then it goes underground down towards the river, I guess. But there's no place to walk along it to see where it goes.
All right, Peter, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, so my memory of this, there's a few things. One is, yes, the commission was worried that essentially when treatment was done on this pond over and over and over again, it was filling it with basically toxins. I mean, it was killing herbicides and algicides and all the rest. And so that was one of the reasons why we wanted some actual plan that would make this sustainable, so you wouldn't have to put those chemicals. And I'm glad that the representative is sensitive to the fact that it's partially the chemical part that we're concerned about here. And it honestly, given the animal life in there right now, I mean, it sounds like a healthy, it may not sustain fish that well because of the surface, but if there are all those animals in there, I mean, it's showing some sort of vitality right now. Is the green, Deb, did you see, is the green duckweed or is it algae or something else?
I haven't, no, I haven't been by again, since it's grown in.
Because I mean, duckweed is a problem, but it's not, it's a natural thing. That's
It's
what you
a
find
lot
in
of algae.
shallow, you find it in shallow ponds, right?
Yeah, it looks like duckweed.
Yeah, so.
So I think, I mean, the commission was going to allow them to do some treatments. We hadn't gotten the yearly reports we were supposed to get from Solitude as to what they had been doing for treatments. And we required that they submit those, which we did receive, some of them, but they didn't have the information really we were looking for.
Deb, am I mistaken, but there was also an area or history of an aeration system in there?
There was, apparently it would get clogged a lot with the vegetation. Go
So
ahead,
we-
Janet.
It also, in the late summer, depending on the rain, since it's mostly rain and runoff fed, the one that had been put in before I moved in, or right about the time I moved in when I didn't do much, it burned, the motor burned out because the water got down really low.
Did it actually completely dry out at some point last year?
Last summer during the drought,
Yeah,
there was a little teeny pond.
Yeah.
I mean, like probably the size of a big room in a house.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, it strikes me as the kind of situation where being kind of intermittent and really dependent on runoff and rainwater, that it's not going to be the glorious pond with the clear water.
no, I think Allison's point before was that she said it wants to be a wetland.
Mhm.
You know, that's what it's kind of going towards. Allison, any luck yet? No, okay.
This was a situation where Solitude was involved, but was kind of not doing what it was supposed to do. And the homeowners, we wanted the homeowners to be more
Active, right?
okay. I do remember
Yeah.
this.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm
One
sorry.
of the part of the order required me to meet on site with members of the Southfield Court Association. So that's kind of how I ended up meeting up with Janet on site. So I think she's, you know, they don't have much money that they want to spend on this. Joe Ornato, they don't have anyone on staff that, you know, would recommend plantings for them to do around the pond. So they were trying to steer her. I think I gave you a couple names of people too. But apparently that's expensive to have someone on board to put together a planting plan. So reaching out to the neighbors, I think, was great as far as the fertilizer goes. That was one suggestion that we had. So I think she's looking to see if you would allow treatment to start again before they actually have plantings installed to try to clear the pond.
And to prevent the erosion.
Mhm.
Fred, you had a comment?
Yes, I was thinking about what you said, that this piece of water wants to be intermittent wetland, intermittent pond. And I wondered if the homeowners could embrace having some vegetation or trees actually growing in the water area, you know, or along the banks, which, and I don't know how much that would improve the water quality, but it would stabilize, it would help stabilize the shoreline probably.
So that's essentially what we kind of are requiring them to do.
I see.
It's just coming up with an actual plan to present to the commission for us to approve. I know Janet was telling me she had some dogwood that she was willing to do cuttings to do some plantings along the bank. So I think they're looking at doing this more slowly than maybe we were anticipating. So I think the main factor is whether you're going to approve them to do any pond treatments as they work on the rest of the pieces to this.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Any other comments from the commission?
Yeah,
Sue?
I think there's got to be a plan in front of us
I
to
agree.
move forward.
I agree.
But
with
I think Joe Ornato needs to give us something in writing as well, as far as what chemicals or what treatment he is proposing. It's kind of hard just to kind of approve the use of herbicides and such when we don't know what he's targeting and, what the treatment plan would be.
I agree. Is there any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Do we need any public input on this, Deb?
You can ask if anyone has any comments.
Does anybody in the public raise their hand if they have a comment or a question? Otherwise, I would leave it to this association to prepare a plan that we could review and approve.
All right,
And Janet, I'm happy to give you some more names of people that might be able to work with you as far as the planting plan goes to get some more estimates.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I'll have talked to Joe and try to get a little more plan, including, I know the filter was one thing he suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Because that water we can't control.
Right.
Right.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, Janet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
So,
you.
Deb, any
Um,
thoughts next, or Clay?
Just before we move on, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. It seems that just due to the number of panelists we have in this meeting, it looks like there's a couple of people that we were expecting in as panelists have been diverted to attendees. For right now, just given the number of panelists, I'm going to kind of keep things static. So if somebody is currently in the attendees side waiting for a hearing tonight to present, I will move you over for your meeting. I can see most of the labels. And if I miss somebody from somebody's team when they're going to present, please let me know and just I'll check the attendees side just in case. But I just, before anybody sitting as an attendee might be panicking, I will shuffle people accordingly as needed, just due to the number of panelists we have.
Okay, so do we want to go to 0 Charles River Street, Walker Pond?
Yeah, so we are gonna do that. And then we have a discussion about 311 Dedham, about their proposed dewatering. And Tom Ryder, we want in on that discussion. So after you do Walker Pond, if we can just quickly go over that while Tom is in attendance.
So while Walker Pond, 0 Charles River Street, they do not have a DP file number. It's a request for determination of applicability to do some sampling in the pond. And who is here to discuss that?
So Tom Ryder, town engineer. I'm going to turn this over to Melissa Ricos and her team. But we've been here regarding Walker Pond a few times. And we're going to continually meet with you all on our proposals coming up as well. This is a request for determination on a sampling plan and probably just give some updates on our category 2 improvements that we're making. So If Melissa's online, I'm gonna
Yeah,
send it over to her.
sure. Thanks, Tom. Melissa Recross with Beta Group. I'm project manager for this Walker Pond project. And here with me, I also have Tyler Drew from our team. He's a scientist and prepared this RDA application. Just a little background, this is Walker Pond Category 2. So what's been done in this watershed to step back from it, we're addressing the water quality issues in the pond. A lot of nutrients and plant overgrowth. So to date, there has been a sewer extension installed in Walker Lane to remove septic systems and prevent migration of nutrients from septic systems into the pond. We've also installed a BMP along Walker Lane that you probably all remember, and that's treating stormwater coming off of Walker Lane by infiltration before it's discharged into the pond to prevent more phosphorus. We're also working on some other siting of BMPs throughout the watershed to treat stormwater, prevent nutrients from making its way down to Walker Pond. So this current phase that we're focusing on addresses water quality. We're going to come up with a 5-year pond management plan. We've also engaged water and wetlands for that work, as well as work on the outlet control structure, which has failed and the town has put in a temporary fix. So we're going to come up with a permanent new structure. And there's also an inlet pipe that requires a head wall to stabilize it coming into the pond. So the RDA that Tyler's going to go over in a minute here is to complete sediment sampling within the pond so that we can put together the pond management plan. It's going to test for phosphorus as well as sediment quality and the delineation around the structures. And at a future date, DPW will be applying with a full NOI for those pieces of the project. So Tyler, if you have any presentation capability, maybe you can pull up your graphics.
Sure. Is there a way to share my screen?
It should be a green icon if you hover over the
Share screen.
bottom.
Yep. I do it. Okay. There we go. Everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, so as Melissa said, this project is in support of future pond management projects that will be undertaken by the town. Sediment sampling includes collection of 24 borings that will be done to a depth of 12 inches to create 8 composite samples to evaluate the sediment of the pond. Collection will be done using a small boat with a geoprobe, hand tools, and a sediment sampler. The sediment sampling locations will be marked with a stake and GPS located. Sediment samples will be small in diameter, comparable to a soil auger used in delineations. So they're not anticipated to create an impact to the substrate of the pond. And then in addition to that, the installation of phosphorus filter tubes at the outfall locations at this brook and outfalls from Walker Lane to filter phosphorus from the street drainage from Walker Lane. So let's see. The filter tubes, I do have literature on the filter tube placement. But basically, they just involve placing them on the bank. They don't require, clearing of vegetation or work on the bank that would alter it in any way. And these are the potential location, the proposed locations. So for this RDA, we're seeking a -2 and -6 determination to confirm that work within areas subject to protection will not alter the resource areas. In addition to that, we're seeking a positive 2A determination to confirm that delineated resource areas are accurate.
I think that covers our presentation. If anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to.
Yeah,
answer them.
any of the commissioners have any questions? I'll get down the list here. Sue? Reed?
No questions, no.
Fred?
No questions.
Peter?
Yes, I know this doesn't really pertain to the project in front of us, which seems, to be honest, perfectly straightforward. Can you let me know what this is why you're doing this? In other words, this is in anticipation of some sort of dredging project, which is, the kind of pattern we've seen before.
So this is in anticipation of preparing a 5-year pond management plan. Some of the things that might fall under that are treatment with herbicides, cooling of vegetation, harvesting of weeds, which under permitting requirements, if cooling of weeds removes sediment, then we need to be able to categorize that sediment and potentially, depending on the amount, will be dredging. So that is why we're taking sediment samples in addition to the sediment itself that could come up through hydro raking or something like that, if that ends up being something that's recommended. The other reason we're doing the sediment sampling is we're also taking phosphorus fractioning samples so that we can determine whether phosphorus is coming back up from the soils. And in that case, there might be a recommendation to do alum treatments to keep that sediment stable in the soil rather than having it resuspended in the water. So yeah, there's a couple of reasons, a couple of things that we're covering
Yes.
with the sediment
So
sampling.
good. So you're just trying to understand the nature of the sediment and then specifically the phosphorus, if it's still present in the soil. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yep.
All right, Allison, do you have any questions, comments? Paulina?
No comment.
And Chair has no comment. So can I have a motion to grant a negative determination of applicability for 0 Charles River Street, Walker Pond?
So you have to close the hearing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So we got to vote to close the hearing?
Mhm.
Okay. So can I have a motion to close the hearing for negative determination of applicability for 0 Charles River Street, Walker Pond?
I motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? No discussion, so let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison, Paulina,
Aye.
and Chair votes aye. Okay, so now, can I have
Now
a-
you can issue.
yeah, can I have a motion to issue the negative determination of applicability for 0 Charles River Street, Walker Pond?
I motion to issue a negative determination of applicability.
Seconded.
Any discussion? No discussion, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison. Paulina,
Aye.
and Chair, aye. Good.
All right, so Tom, if you can stick around, would be great.
All right, thank you. And we're going to talk about 311, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clay, I don't know if you want to introduce it since you've been.
This is an enforcement order.
No. Go ahead.
I mean, this is under the same enforcement that was discussed at the last meeting. So the applicant has acquired another contractor who's here with us tonight, Rodrigo, to bring the site back into compliance. The first step that we did was getting the erosion controls and the silt fence properly towed in to make sure the site remained stabilized. I met out there, I think earlier this week with both Somya and Rodrigo. We walked the erosion control lines. And they were pretty well shored up, at least as well as can be with the amount of sediments on site. At this point, they still have the foundation hole as well as soil stockpiling around the foundation hole. So it continues to collect water. Initially, the contractor had proposed pumping the water out to be removed off site via an 800-gallon tank truck. However, with each rainstorm that we get, probably including tonight's rain, it manages to refill back. So they're here before us tonight to discuss dewatering of the site. My understanding is that there's a hope, one of two directions, either to pump and to try to infiltrate as best they can within that kind of untouched 25-foot buffer area, or to pump and filter to be drained out into the stormwater infrastructure that's currently in the roadway. I'll let Rodrigo speak to it a little bit more, but I believe that the plan was to use a series of hay bales with like a filter fabric to desediment before it either infiltrates and runs off at the back of the property or before it enters the stormwater system.
Second, good evening. I'm Rodrigo Fagundes. My proposal for the site, it is basically to build on the back of the property, little area with hay bales, probably area like 6 feet by 6 feet, and use a 6 mil poly liner inside, do a kind of overlap into halfway in the hay bales, and as soon as I dump all that water into that little area, which is going to look like a little mini pool, basically all the silt material is going to stay in the bottom, and as the water rises, it goes into the hay bales and kind of filters away. Make sure just everything just filters away before it hits the ground. That's to do in the back, and if you're going to do in the front, on the back, I'm proposing to do that right behind the erosion control, because inside the property, the soil is all disturbed and stuff like that. If I try to do that inside, it's just going to create a big, like basically it's a mud pit. There'll be one option to do on the back. The second option, it is to do the same thing on the front, and the way the overflow of the water hits the streets and goes into the storm drainage. And at the same time, I spoke with Sumar, and I get a hold of Eversource, and I hire an electrician to install a temp power on site. And as soon as the temp power is on site, they're going to be able to install a small sump pump with the float. And during the construction, basically just going to be that way it'll be easy to keep the water level under control. Otherwise, every time it is rain, everything just filled up with water, and it's going back to the square one. And at the same time, when I do that sump pump, proposal to use like basically a plastic bucket. And when I dug it up at that hole, I can probably use some 3/4 stone around the bucket just to make sure I get as much as clean water into the sump pump bucket before I discharge into the liner. That's the proposal.
Great. Any of the commissioners have a comment? I have one main comment. Before you do anything, we need to see a written plan.
I did send a little sketch, kind of idea what I'm trying to do.
Okay, any the commissioners have a comment? You could raise your hand, or I could call on you.
I have a comment.
Yeah,
Paulina. I was just wondering if Clay, could you put up the sketch on the screen? Can you share that? And then also
Little sketch, no.
Image?
Actually, I don't think that's the one I sent it over, Clay. Do you think I send another one with some legends on it.
If you want, I can share.
Can you resend this over again to play? This one,
Or I can share.
this one.
My other comment is, I'm not sure how this commission typically votes, but I thought we were trying to stay away from hay bales and more straw bales just to avoid
Um,
potential for invasive plants.
Yeah, I think that's what Clay was talking about is the straw bales.
Yeah, I can use the strawberries. The only reason I did have the idea with the hay bales because the hay bales are like 18 inches taller. That means allows more volume to water before discharge, but I can use the wattles instead of the hay bales to do that application.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, my comment is this, that you know, you're proposing a plan that it's based on some you know, quite frankly, a lack of data. We don't know how much water is there. We don't know what your pumping rate is. We don't know what the size of yours. I think you're proposing a sedimentation basin, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're proposing, but we have no idea what the size of that is. And you know, we don't have any estimate of what you're assuming for a infiltration rate of the groundwater. And so before, you know, we can really assess what your proposal is, you need to provide that information. My second comment is that, you know, there are devices that you could buy, filtration, like filter bags or filter tubes or things of that nature that that can be used are a lot simpler than what you're proposing. So I'm just wondering whether you had considered that approach. And then my last question would be, you know, with regard to discharging to the town system, I think, you know, the town would have to comment on that.
That's why Tom Ryder's here.
So Tom, do you have any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I do. I haven't seen a plan yet either, and Rodrigo's has stopped by the office, and I told him I'd help him with some guidance on it. First, as you said, yeah, there might be some easier methods on doing it. Some sort of filter bag, and it would be a permit connection. I am not sure the nearest catch basin. We would prefer to go right to the catch basin through a filtering system first. So that's something, discussion that, you know, we would have with him as well. So there is a permit category for it that we can work out the details with them. But yeah, it would be a filter, doing some sort of filter. I do not want him to discharge onto the street, rather go right to a catch basin. And if there's no catch basin nearby, then he might have to maintain it on the property somehow. That's the, but that's for further discussion, I think, until we see a plan.
So, and I think usually we have the dewatering at least 25 feet from the resource area. So that's the only area that's remaining on the site that isn't mud right now.
I mean, I think if it's done correctly, that should be fine, as long as the amount of water is going to be within a reasonable infiltration rate of the, you know, the size of whatever is going to be proposed, you know, whether it's a basin or a filter bag or whatever.
I do have one question. If I take the majority of the water and out of there now with basically a trailer pump and transport away from the site, and if I get them low enough, to me it sounds like you worrying about like a volume to water and the size of the pump are going to be dumping water in there, and they're just going to create more mess than anything, correct?
Well, I mean, my concern is that, you know, if you're proposing to infiltrate water into the ground.
Yep.
Okay, then there are some practical considerations, you know, like what the infiltration rate is. Like typically for, you know, underserved soil, it could be like a half an inch or an inch an hour.
Okay,
And so depending on what your pumping rate is, that'll tell you what kind of surface area you need. And, you know, if all that's within, you know, reasonable parameters, then I don't see a problem with, you know, that method. But, you know, from what, you know, what we know now, I mean, it's hard to make a judgment as whether it's properly designed. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, that makes sense. I understood. Now, the next question I have, if I come up with something like that, basically just want to know, well, we're gonna figure out what's the volume, the water it is in there, and what size pump we're gonna be using, and how much water gonna be charging. And by that amount of the water is gonna determine what size it is, the area gonna be basically make with the waters and the liner in order to dump the water.
Yeah,
There's-
I wouldn't use the term dump. You're
Yeah.
proposing to infiltrate the water.
infiltrate the water, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if it come up with something like that, is there something I can work with Clay and Debbie? Or do I have to go back on this medium again?
I mean, and I think you can work with Clay and Debbie, but you know, I don't know if the other commissioners have any comments.
Okay, the reason I'm asking all that question, because first of all, the site is not safe right now. And I, like myself and the homeowner wants to bring that site back, basically, you know, and start the construction and make sure it's all safe. Not only that doesn't look good, and without that dirt pile sits on top of those 3 roots and all that stuff, that means I think it is not a benefit for anyone at this point to, you know, try to get this done. That's something I just thought with the dirt piles on top of the roots, you know, and those trees was gonna maintain. And I just, that's what I just thought to ask you that question.
Yeah, when do you think you'll be ready to put the footings in?
I'm not gonna do anything in there because now I have to eliminate the water issue first. And in order to me to get the building inspector, basically do inspection, I have to make sure the hole is all clean, nice and dry. And right now I have like a, you know, some water in there. And like I said the other day, I just did like 2 days running around Monday and Tuesday, hauling away water out of there. And Tuesday end of the day, I went back again to square one because with that rainstorm. And that means-
I'm sorry.
and if I get the site under control, that means after that point with the temp power, I'm gonna set up very small sump pump in there. There's not gonna be that much water, and this basically the whole hole is gonna have like a 3/4 stone to be all nice and clean. All that water is gonna filter into the sump pump bucket, and the pump is just maintained. It's not a, you know, just a regular garden hose, very small amount. If I maintain, but if I don't maintain, the water will be accumulated. Plus the soil is all clay and stuff. Is basically everything just kind of work against myself in here because that doesn't help them drainage the water.
Yeah, we understand that. Do you know if it's groundwater primarily or?
I don't think it is a groundwater. The main issue I have is because of the soil doesn't help me basically drainage any water. The clay is very packed down, you know, like but it's not a groundwater. Definitely not a groundwater.
All right, well, I would leave it that, you know, prepare your plan and submit it to Debbie and Clay.
And we'll continue to work with Tom on it as well.
Yeah, if you're gonna take that route as well. And I'd be happy to look at any calculations.
Okay.
So, let me jump in. So I believe it's around 1,600 worth of work. So I believe we removed almost like 6,000 to 8,000 gallon of water in a day, and total is around like 16,000 gallon there. So So the area that water is there, it's around like I can say 1,600 square feet. And then it's 1 feet high so far. So some places it's 6 inches, some places it's like 1 feet, on an average like 9 inches. So I will say it's around like 2 days of removing it through the 800 gallon. So the big challenge there is it's the water is not percolating at all. And in that case, if it's raining every second day, third day, we are back to the square one. So the only problem that we need to solve immediately is to take out that water and put those stones on place. Otherwise, it's going to get more water and more problems.
Yeah, I mean, we can't predict the future. I mean, if you got 16,000 gallons there, you got, like I said before, you got to calculate how much you can infiltrate in that 25-foot area. And if you can't infiltrate that, then you got to come up with some other plan. And if that means trucking it away, that's fine. You could always apply for a NPDES permit and discharge it to the stream. That's another option, but that's something that you could look into. All right, any more comments? All right, let's well, thanks for the update, and we'll be looking forward to more details of your dewatering plan.
Okay,
All right,
Thank
thank you.
thank you, Clay. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I'll talk with
Thank
you. Yep.
Have a good night. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, let's move on to 49 Green Street. Is that right, Deb?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, I'd like to open the hearing for 49 Green Street DEP file 234-911, notice of intent. Who is here to represent the applicant, or is the applicant here?
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas here representing the Needham Golf Club. Also joined with me on this call is Tim Hood, the superintendent of the Needham Golf Club, as well as Ken Motstas, apologize for butchering the name, of the chair of the Greens Committee for the Needham Golf Club. And if I may, I would like to share my screen to run through some aspects of our projects. If that's all right?
Yeah, sure, you're good.
Excellent. So I'm going to start with just some aerial imagery. This is essentially, in large part, an effort to restore a denuded stream corridor that has had some undercutting, a lot of erosive issues with an intermittent stream that traverses the property. Just to orient ourselves, this is the western portion of the Needham Golf Club. We have.
I think we see, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think we see your shared screen.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Can we still see?
We see it now.
Okay, excellent. My apologies. You'd think I would be familiar with Zoom by now. So this is the Needham Golf Club proper, and the areas that we are concerned with are the western portion of the property. And there are a few different aspects to this project. Some of them are specific to the stream restoration effort, and others are more geared to improve the play conditions and sediment management activities. So Great Plain Avenue is here to the north. We have Green Street to our southeast, and the MBTA line bifurcates our site right here. The area of the interest is the western portion of the property on this portion of the screen. And I'm going to run through the projects from north to south, and we'll look at them in a little bit more detail too as I pull up the site plans in a moment. There is a northerly asphalt lined intermittent stream that has been subject to significant erosion. I'm going to pull up a photo of that from the notice of intent application. We have the asphalt line bottom here. It flows in a southerly direction below the MBTA line here. A lot of undercutting, a lot of sediment that winds up in the stream channel that becoming vegetated with grass. And essentially what the applicant is trying to accomplish with this stream corridor is do some regrading activities along the bank. Right now it's managed as basically sod and turf grass up to the edge of the bank, and regrade it into a more gradual slope to prevent some of that undercutting, and then allow a 2-foot width swath on each side of the stream bank to be revegetated with a native conservation mix, whereas in its current condition, it's going to be, it is managed as turf grass. Jumping back to our aerial, we have a second component of the project in the northerly half. There is some invasive species over here on the northwestern corner that we would like to manage. We have some Norway maples, we have some Asiatic bittersweet, and there are also 2 black cherries that are infested with black rot that we would like to remove from this area of the property. We'll look at the location proper when we pull up the plans, but the idea is that this will also be reseeded with that New England Conservation Wildlife mix. So that's in this westerly wooded area. Moving south on the opposite side of the MBTA line, we have a man-made asphalt line detention feature. So when I say asphalt line, that means there's no cobble bottom. It is literally an impervious bottom to this detention feature. The applicant is seeking permission to repair existing flashboards. These are flashboards that control the flow of water as this little teardrop shape fills up and that it eventually discharges to the southerly stream area. So we're looking to not only repair those flashboards, but also to go into this asphalt area and remove sediment that has accumulated during low flow conditions and when the flashboards are removed. Essentially, when these boards are removed, water flows freely into this stream, and you can access the bottom of the pond with a bucket and shovel exercise. It's not a complicated feat, but there is something I do want to stress in that it is important for the applicant to be able to do some of this sediment removal beyond the lifespan of a typical notice of intent. So we are very specifically seeking an ongoing condition to be able to remove sediment not only from this pond, but also from the asphalt line stream here to the north. So moving further south, we have our second and final portion of the stream. And unlike the top portion of the stream to the north, which is highly eroded, we have the retaining walls essentially conveying the flow in the southern portion of the stream off-site to the southwest. And what the applicant is proposing here is to actually remove portions of the retaining wall and create, similar to what we're proposing to the north, a more gradual slope up until about the limits of this existing bridge. And that will similarly be vegetated with that conservation seed mix along the banks. And the retaining wall is in somewhat of a state of disrepair. We have included some photos of that in our notice of intent as well. So this is looking to the north, the stream kind of flowing at me as I'm taking the photo, and kind of an up close picture in some of the vegetation that's growing in that retaining wall. And then the last component of the project, which I have not mentioned yet, we are also looking to remove some existing shade trees and then replace them with deciduous species. We have a cluster of largely Scots and white pine over here, and we're looking to remove them and replant with red maple, striped maple, and flowering dogwood. So the idea is that this will remain a canopied area in the long term, but we are looking to switch out the species in this location, and I do believe the buffer zone extends that far. So I'm going to jump to the plans. And we do have an erosion sediment control scheme. We're proposing during low flow when the work is to be undertaken on the bank. Essentially these check dams of straw bales that instead of using wooden stakes, because this is an asphalt channel, they're going to use rebar to hold them in place. So in 75-foot increments throughout the length of the stream channel. This is the polygon that we've come up with, specifically denoting the areas of invasive species that we want to remove. The applicant anticipates that they're going to be able to take care of all of the work themselves, because again, this is a site that they occupy, and they have the machinery and the manpower to continue to work this area. So we are proposing largely just hand removal on sort of an ongoing basis. And we are also anticipating that the invasive species will be specifically flagged prior to any removal activities are undertaken. And then similarly, on the southern portion of the property, we have this, that's the asphalt or bituminous concrete pond. the outlet fall structure, which has the flashboards, is just outside of the buffer zone. But again, we understand that it's hydrologically connected to this jurisdictional intermittent stream, so we are seeking the commission's permission to not only repair those flashboards, but to remove the sediment that's accumulating within here, essentially contained in this 117 contour settling on the bottom of the pond. So we're looking to remove that, and any material that's removed from the stream or from the pond will be stored either off-site or outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and contained appropriately. And then moving to the south area, we have our tree removal area highlighted here, and the areas that we're designating for removal of the existing retaining walls. And again, it will stop just before this footbridge here, which connects the two green areas. And I know that is a lot to take in, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I can pull back up any graphics, and I would like to invite the commission for questions and comments.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Let me call on the commissioners to get comments. Sue?
How many trees are being removed? Can you hear me?
Yep. I believe it's in excess of 10 in the removal area. I can get you a number right now, though.
I counted, I thought I counted 21. If those dots inside those areas are trees.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm seeing 11.
In
and-
both areas?
Oh, in both areas. No, oh, sorry. In both areas, yes, it would be in excess of, or closer to 21. I was thinking of the shading area, but the
Yeah,
one-
so we do have a 2-to-1 tree replacement policy, and you're
Okay.
proposing 6 trees.
Okay, so that's something that we can look more closely at and see what the golf club is amenable to include on the plan. I don't see why we don't have the room to accommodate. Yep.
Okay, great. Reed, any comment?
Yeah, I guess, could you speak more as to why in the southern portion, why these trees, why you'd like to remove these trees, especially the white pines, I guess?
Mhm.
I'm not sure why that's necessary.
If I can interrupt here. Hi, my name's Tim Hood, Needham Golf Club Superintendent. The main reason we're looking to remove the trees on the south side is because of the golf green that's just next to it. It creates a shade on the green through most of the half of the second half of the day on that green, especially during the spring and fall and winter months. So one reason what we have is we have an issue of root growth on that green, which is the main time when you get roots to grow is in the spring and fall. We also have had many years of ice damage from big winter years where we have a lot of snowfall. And if you have more sun exposure on that green, that will help with the roots to grow through, makes it a healthier green, which is what we're basically trying to do, is keep our turf healthy. There are probably some deciduous trees that are a little taller there that we could possibly keep and maybe take out more of the evergreens, but we're just trying to thin out the area so we can allow sun exposure.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, those are, nice, large, mature trees that, it's a little concerning. And I'm just wondering if there's other options that could be explored.
Yeah, it's mainly because of the shade issue that we have, and we've dealt with that with other greens, and we've seen tremendous improvement for a healthier turf for us, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, Fred, do you have any comments?
Well, the striped maple that's proposed, I don't have experience with that thriving in our climates. So I had a question about that. I guess I wonder if thinning the eastern white pine is an option, or the Scots pine, does that throw a denser shade than the eastern white, or Anyway, I think the striped maple is an understory tree primarily, and prefers a cool environment. And so I'm not sure, you'd have to think about you might have to think about other options, but.
Okay.
We can certainly look into our planting plan and see how we can make that more robust. Yep.
All right, Peter, do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, so does this, this is intermittent stream, right?
Mhm.
Does the pond also dry out? The bituminous concrete bottom pond?
It does, yeah.
So are you proposing to remove the sediment during those periods? When it's dried out?
Yeah. When it dries out, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Allison? You on mute, or you're still having technical problems? All right, Paulina?
I don't have any comments or questions.
Okay, the chair has, a couple comments. One, you already addressed that we got 21 trees being removed, and our policy is a 2-to-1 replacement. So that needs to be addressed. The other question I have is, how did you come to the decision to have only a 2-foot wide strip on either side of the street? Why not something larger? A 2-foot wide strip of natural wetland mix or whatever. I forget what you were proposing.
Yep, we're proposing the New England Wildlife Conservation Mix, which is a cocktail of blue stem and some other native forbs. And we've had good success in these areas. We've seen these buffer strips used on courses. Really, I think it depends on how far into the green we have the ability to go before interrupting play, and we can certainly look at this more closely and speak with Tim between now and the next meeting. But 2 feet for us, especially at this much of a length, it felt like a good number for introducing this sort of small habitat corridor, especially as there is none now, just eroded turf. But we can also take a closer look at that.
And we could definitely make changes to the south side where it's somewhat minimal play in that area. The northern side of the tracks, I think it's such heavy play on that hole where they're crossing the stream. It's just I think the proposals that we gave would work best for play and the project.
Okay. And you're proposing like a 4-to-1 slope, which that's pretty typical, right? 4-to-1 for that.
Yeah, we had our engineers look at that and how we can best tie into existing grades as well without damaging any bridge footings. That was certainly a concern going into the project. We want to preserve those structures that are in place today.
Okay.
I have a couple of things. When
Got staff, Deb or Clay, any questions, comments?
So I think we need more information on the individual trees that you're looking to remove. Size, species, location on the plan. And also wondering if there's no opportunity to maybe add some shrubs to the bank of the stream to help with stabilization and add a little more wildlife habitat value instead of just the conservation seed mix.
We can certainly look at that. I think the herbaceous growth is preferred given the overall use of the site. If there's a way we can stay with that and either do an increase or a diversity of
Do
other.
you think that the roots are deep enough that'll help stabilize the banks?
I do think it's going to be an improvement and there's going to be stabilization. We could go in with an erosion control mix and then piggyback off of that and potentially introduce the wildlife seed mix after. That's something that we'd be willing to explore. It would be a little bit tricky to implement, but it's something that we could explore.
And I know one of the areas that you were gonna remove the trees, you were just proposing to put the conservation seed mix there once the trees were removed.
Yep. But from
We-
what I'm hearing, sorry, Tim, go ahead.
And we can be including, as long as it's within, and we can do some replacements to 2-to-1. My question would be, would it, as long as it's within the buffer zone, does it have to, is that okay? Like further, there's the banking where we're gonna be removing all the bittersweet a little more north of the circled area. So there's not gonna be much there. So we would do a lot of plantings on that banking. And a little bit more with the conservation area where the removal would be is also because there is more play there as well. So we're trying to just make sure that that's not having an issue with all the trees as well there. And, you know, it's the trying to, I know the Norway maples, I remember from being there for 25 years, they were just little saplings and they're just taking off like crazy. So they're just gonna keep going. That's why we wanted to make sure we remove those. But yeah, there's other areas, and even on the south side by the MBTA banking, which is also part of the buffer zone, we could do some lower growing that, because I know there was a clear cutting all along the the Eversource lines. So there's nothing there right now, and we could do some plantings in those areas as well and probably that would get us into that 2-to-1.
Yeah, it's 2-to-1 for trees, replacing trees, 4-to-1 shrubs.
Yeah. So we can look at the whole site and see what we can do, get more specific.
All right. So any comments from the public? Clay, anybody have their hands raised?
I don't see any hands raised. I believe Allison did just forward a comment.
Can you hear
about-
me?
There we go.
Yes.
Oh, God. I'm struggling and struggling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for this problem, but I do have a problem with just conservation mix. I'm very familiar with it. I've used it for 25 years. And to have like 2 feet of conservation mix, which is native grasses, as you say, but they're bunch grasses. They're not adventitious. They don't have adventitious roots. And in fact, when I look at that picture that you had, and I think that it came to us, you came to us before asking for advice about how to stop the erosion along these banks last year or the year before. I have a memory of it.
Yep.
And we suggested to use like vegetated coir rolls that had not just herbaceous material, but also possibly some small woody material as well. Now, I know you don't like the way that looks. It's not very tidy like a typical golf course that I'm very familiar with as well. But the problem is that conservation mix, I do not think will stop erosion. I don't think it will, based on the root system of those plants, based on the width that you're doing it, and the fact that there is erosion, even if it is an intermittent stream. That picture that you show, it would just scour it. It's going so fast because of that bottom, that solid bottom. So I think you need more than just that. This is just my opinion. You know, you can have your own opinion, obviously you do, about it, but as a landscape architect and someone who uses this mix all the time, on steep slopes and everywhere else in New England, I don't think it's going to work that well. I think you're going to still have erosion. It's just my opinion.
So we did install the core logs after our meeting I had.
Oh, okay.
And the reason we put the core logs in is because the erosion was happening outside the asphalt line brook, and where it was creating a gully of
Yeah.
and just washing that out. So the core logs we put in were just to stabilize the edge of the asphalt. So once we feel that once the mix and outside the mix that we would be putting the sod, that would stabilize the area, and you know, and once it catches on, it would be okay unless we have some major thunder showers.
Yeah, well, you can actually get coir logs that are planted. You know that are planted.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. and not just, yeah, you're absolutely,
So
that they're
you-
filled with
so
soil.
What you would recommend is putting core logs on the edge for those 2 feet that are in just, that are planted, and that would be.
That there are planted core logs. I mean, that is that's one idea. I mean, we're
Yep.
not supposed to really tell you what to do.
Yep.
I'm just saying that I don't think just seeding with native little blue stem and big blue stem and the things that are in that conservation mix is going to do the trick for stopping erosion. I don't think it will.
Well,
In fact, the lawn is a better erosion control because it's much tighter
right.
roots than
my-
native mix, the native seed, our bunch grasses. So there's soil in between each little plant. You see
Yeah,
what I mean?
I would prefer to sod right up to the sod line, up to.
I mean, I don't like the way it looks, but it'll be better for erosion,
I agree.
believe it or not. I mean, I love the native look, but I don't think it'll work.
Well,
That's
agree.
my opinion. That's my opinion.
If the commission would allow us just to sod right up to the asphalt.
Well, that's what you have that's what you have now anyways.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, you could do something right at that very edge, like 6 inches or something that's a little bit more of that then start sodding. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
something there, maybe you have, you set in a core log and then you bring the sod right up to, something
I
just
understand.
right along there, and then things will grow in that during the slow time. Do you see
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. But to just have, I don't think you'll be happy with it, even though it's pretty and everything. I love conservation mix, but I don't know. I don't want it to fail on you. That's all. And you have a mess. Yeah.
No, that's an excellent point you raise, and I think we'll take a very critical look at that, because obviously what we want is the success of this project, and
Yeah.
the closest we can get to that, it'll be for the better.
I mean, maybe like a double jute mesh or something, I mean, that gets it so that it can hold it for a while until things really, really grow in. I mean, there are different ideas of what to do, but I just wouldn't do what you suggested, 2 feet of conservation mix. I don't know. I mean, that's just an opinion. It's not a directive.
I think they get the message.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so any other comments? Any comments from the public? Clay? No?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, so do we need to vote to continue this, or how do we do this?
You do. So if you want to give us some revised materials, we just need them a week before the next meeting.
Okay.
Do you think that will give you enough time?
We would certainly like to hold the next meeting if we can. We'll work as swiftly as we can to address the comments. Yep.
Okay,
All right, so we don't need to vote.
you do to continue.
Okay, so can I have a motion to continue the hearing for 49 Green Street, DEP file number 234-911 for a notice of intent
To August 10th at 7 o'clock.
to August 10th at 7 o'clock?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? No discussion? Let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison,
I
Alina,
Aye.
and Dave votes aye. All right, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
All right, let's move along to 103 Wayne Road. Okay, let's open the hearing for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file 234-910 for, this is a notice of intent. Who is here to represent the applicant?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. We also have William Hearn on here, and we also have Guillermo Beltran from Spruhan Engineering, who's the civil engineer for the project.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen just to present the project tonight.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so again, this is 103 Wayne Road in Needham, and we are coming to you with a notice of intent for the tear down and rebuild of the single family house that is currently on the lot. So what you're looking at currently is the existing conditions on the lot. We have a single family house that's located towards the front. It has a driveway, walkway, steps, landing, small patio area. And the majority of the lot back here is all grass. There's a chain link fence that runs around towards the back of the property and kind of separates from the neighbors on both sides. Towards the north of the lot, we have an intermittent stream that runs to the east over here and connects with a large bordering vegetated wetland system that's up in the northern portion of the site and off-site. So this is what we're proposing tonight. We're proposing a single family house, sort of in the location where the existing single family house is currently, and also in the existing lawn. So again, intermittent stream located towards the north of the property here, which flows into a bordering vegetated wetland that's located up in this portion of the site. We have the 25-foot buffer zone, which is shown in this light blue right here. We have the 100-foot buffer zone that is shown in the dark blue. So we're proposing this house that is going to have a porch, which is right in this section, a patio here, the full house, which is going to encompass the center of the lot now. Outside of the buffer zone, we're going to have a walkway and a driveway as well. All of the house that's not within the current footprint of the existing house is going to be in the existing lawn. We're not going to be taking down any trees for the building of this house on the lot. It's going to be all taking place in the lawn, as I said before. Erosion control is shown in this light yellow line, which is encompassed around the outside of the project here. Within the erosion control, it's going to be lawn, and outside of the erosion control is going to be bushes, which are currently existing right now. And then we're also going to have a mitigation area and a naturalized buffer zone in the 25-foot buffer that's currently not existing. So in this section right here, this is going to be a 1,500 square foot naturalization area that's going to be complete with a total of 24 trees and bushes. It's going to be made up of red maple, black birch, high bush blueberry, and sweet pepper bush to bring this area into essentially a portion of the bordering vegetated wetland back here, and also create a wildlife corridor that's not currently accessible for wildlife on site, and make it nice for the small mammals and birds and things like that that might be using that area to move between the wetland and parts of Wayne Road. We're also going to be doing a conservation seed mix in that area to make sure that we're not going to have any lawn in there anymore, and it's going to be more of a naturalized herbaceous layer that's going to go up. So I'll turn it over to Guillermo right now to express or to talk about the stormwater that's going to be going on in the site and the management there.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Guillermo Beltran from Spruhan Engineering. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, that's the civil plans. We're proposing an infiltration system in the rear yard. The system consists of 3 StormTech plastic chambers with 1 foot of crushed stone below. The system will capture the runoff from both the roof and the driveway with downspouts and a trench drain connected to a deep sump manhole before entering the infiltration system. And that's pretty much it in terms of stormwater management.
And just a note that this stormwater is going to be improvement of existing conditions because there's not currently a stormwater management system on site. So not only are we doing the mitigation area, we're also going to be doing this infiltration basin. That's going to allow stormwater from the impervious surfaces on the house to infiltrate into the ground better than they currently do. So I'll now open it up to the commission for any questions that they might have regarding conservation or stormwater, and we will be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Let me go to the commissioners for comments first. Sue?
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time reading the map. I just want to be sure if are you clear of the 25-foot?
Yep, the 25-foot buffer zone is shown in this light blue right here.
Okay, I got you.
And our erosion control barrier and limit of work is shown outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. So there's not going to be any impacts aside from the mitigation area that we're going to be hand planting these plants and then spreading the seed mix.
Okay, thank you.
Reed,
Yeah, no comments from me.
Fred,
No questions.
Peter.
Yeah, I thought I remembered that there was originally a tree that was supposed to be removed. But
The only tree that's remotely close to the edge of the house is right here. I believe it's a bush, but we have mitigated for any removal of the trees with our mitigation area back here. And these are going to be natural plants as well. So we have red maples and black birches going in, I believe 3 of each. So if this tree does have to be removed, it will be mitigated for. And if the commission would like to see more plantings back there, we're more than happy to do so.
no, I think you comply with the standard. I just wanted to make sure that we were specific that it's like, I mean, I think it's likely, given how close that is, that tree will have to be removed, and then we should have a record of that fact and, know what the species. I think you indicated what species it was on the proposal. So, okay, yeah, but it was clear in the proposal that what you propose as mitigation went beyond what was needed to replace that. And bounds, will there be markers that will?
We don't
mark
have
off the
bounds right
24?
now, but currently on site, we have this chain link fence that goes around and that separates the site from the wetlands. So it's kind of a permanent barrier right now between where people are going to be walking around the conservation land, or between the house itself. But we would be happy to put bounds or some kind of fencing between the 25-foot buffer zone, just to kind of demark that as well. But I'll leave that up to the commission to see what they want.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Allison.
Is there somewhere where you actually have a plant list? I know you said what the species were, but it'd be nice to have like a list that shows the sizes and.
That was submitted in the notice of intent. Give me a second, I could pull that.
Okay, yeah,
actually,
because it's
let me
color
just stop
coded,
share.
they're color coded, right?
So here's our planting plan right here. This is a more easy way to see it. RM stands for red maple, BB, black birch, SPB,
Okay.
sweet pepper bush, and then
Oh.
HBB is the high bush blueberry. And in the corner, you can see here's the sizing for those as well.
Yeah.
And the amount of.
Yeah, my question though is it's not really, except for that one, I guess, it's not really replacement. It's more like, because it's more mitigation sort of, but so if you do that, and I'm asking Deb, does he need to follow the sizing, or is this because it's kind of a nice thing that they're doing, in terms of the size, that's smaller, the trees are smaller than are required if he were to cut a tree down and have a replacement?
Well, Clay kind of reviewed this, so I'll leave this up to him to respond.
I mean, it's not a replacement, so I don't know if that applies. Does it apply, Clay?
I think in terms of the replacement,
so-
if they were replacements, I think it's more important. In this case, I think it's less important because I think that there's going to be a certain amount of them that may or may not survive. On the plan, you can see an existing tree kind of
there's
in
a
that
tree
little
that's
jet
there.
there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty large, I think it's a Norway maple there. It shades out the area pretty well. I think that
But
this
there are
restoration
other
plan.
trees on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. See that?
Yeah.
1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 trees over there that are going. I'm sure.
No, those are outside of the limit of work. So the erosion control barrier right here is the limit of work.
Oh, it's not an X. It's just a location of the trunk.
Yeah,
Is that
those
what
are
that
the
means? Oh, okay,
survey
okay.
points.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so where these aren't being the replacement, my staff opinion is that the size requirement is only important for some level of survivability. I think where we are allowing them to spread conservation mix and preserve an area, it's more important to get the variety that they've proposed into the site and create a no-mow area that creates that
Okay,
vegetative
okay.
buffer that we're looking for.
Yeah, okay. And then my only other question is, is the patio, does it have permeable pavers? Is it permeable or impermeable?
I believe that it's impermeable, but we could talk to Bill, who's on here, and we could see if we could put a permeable paver in instead. Bill, do you think you would be willing to put a permeable paver in to that section instead
Yeah,
of having?
Most certainly, Tom, yep, no problem whatsoever. We can do that.
Oh, okay. That's all. That's all my only questions.
All right, Paulina? Any questions,
I
comments?
don't have any additional questions.
All right. I have.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's so I have one more question. Does the chain link fence stay there?
The chain link fence
Can you
is
hear me?
going to stay. Yeah, I can hear you. Yep, absolutely. So the chain link fence we are going to keep in place just because it does give a good separation between the wetlands and the property itself. So the applicant, Bill, he wanted to keep this in place just to make sure the people who were purchasing the property knew essentially what the limit of their property was outside of the lawn itself. So he wants to keep that in place
Okay,
if possible.
Thank you.
All right. Chair has a couple of questions. I've looked at your stormwater proposal, and there are a couple of things I didn't understand. Like there's some differences between what's said in the notice of intent and what you're showing on the drawings. On the drawings, you're proposing like 3 chambers in the back. In the notice of intent, you were talking about 2 chambers in the back and 1 in the front. And then in the calculations, you talk about a roof area of some 3,000 plus square feet. But at other places, you say that you're going to collect the patio, the deck, and the driveway. So, and then at another point, you'd say you have a increased impervious of 909 square feet. I presume that is within the 100-foot buffer zone. But I don't, it's not clear how you got that, but putting that aside, what is the area that's going to be collected for the infiltration basin, number 1? And is that the 3,000 square feet or is it more? And then finally, where are you putting these infiltration chambers?
Yeah, I can answer to that. The area that's going to be collected is the 3,000, the over 3,000 square feet. That note should say roof plus driveway. That's the total of the impervious area from both areas.
Okay. And you're
And,
gonna,
yeah,
you'll-
sorry.
and you have the 3 Caltech chambers in the rear.
Yes, that's correct. You can see them on the plan.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, no, the only reason I mention it is because the write-up says something different. That's all. You know, it's no big deal. I'm just trying to understand what you're proposing. All right, and then do you have any concern about the soil there? Because you haven't done.
Yeah,
done
we
enhanced yet.
didn't perform a test pit there as there's no like typically required by the building department, but we looked at NRCS.
Yeah.
And they show sand, fine sand and gravelly sand on the lot, and the water table at more than 80 inches. So we're not concerned about that.
Okay, all right. Don't have any other questions. Oh, well, I do have one. This has come up recently on a couple projects. Stockpiling of soil, like you're going to tear down the house and dig out the existing foundation and, you know, expand the excavation for a bigger house, bigger foundation. Where are you putting all the soil? Is it going to be?
So
on-
if
Hey.
possible, we'd like to keep it outside of the buffer zone towards the front here. But Bill, I don't know if you had any comment for that.
Commissioner, it would be Jack Malone Company would be the site contractor. And if there's excess, he'll probably remove it off the lot, but while we're excavating, it will be on the front. It will not be at the back of that lot.
Yeah, okay. I would just suggest that you know, take as much of what you're not gonna need off the site, because.
Oh, they do all the time. These site contractors move it between themselves all the
Yeah,
time.
But
They
we've
have an-
seen, we've seen
Yeah.
cases where they're not moving it.
Yeah.
They're just leaving it there.
Yeah, no, they take it Central Ave is full of these 12-wheelers with loom being moved everywhere.
Yeah. All right, no more questions. Staff, Deb or Clay, do you have any further questions?
No, as noted, it is primarily buffer zone only to the intermittent stream. They're proposing the mitigation area, which I think is robust. As Tom stated, it looks like, and as Peter referred to, it looks like there's at least one shrub that's kind of near that proposed patio that may be affected by this. I believe there's another tree or shrub on the plan a little bit further back than that may be that may not survive. However, when I was out there earlier today, the one that I had seen out there looks more like a dead wildlife snag that's been overwhelmed by bittersweet. So I guess my only comments would be that I'd recommend just conditioning that there's invasive species management during the 2-year monitoring period for that 25-foot buffer, just because we are kind of planting fresh, and I just want to make sure that after 2 years we're not allowing it to just become a knotweed or bittersweet stand with a couple of additional plantings in there. With that, I think in the draft order of conditions, there's a pending special condition just for 4 of our conservation placards to be placed equidistant along the 25-foot. They can be affixed to some kind of, bound or mound. I know that we've had some comments about making sure we're not using surveyor bounds, but some other rebar, minor fencing, something that maybe wouldn't block wildlife movement, but would be otherwise permanently installed. And that would just apprise future owners to not mow or kind of alter beyond that 25-foot line.
Okay. Clay, is there anybody in the public that has a hand raised?
I do not see any raised hands now.
Okay, so let's close the hearing here. Can I have a motion to close the hearing for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file number 234-910, notice of intent?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Helena,
Aye.
and Dave votes aye. So was there a request for waiver of doing work in the 25-foot zone? Did we have to vote on that now?
Usually we vote with the order of conditions a little bit later after we've gotten through all the people present for the meeting, but we will have to vote on the waiver of the 25-foot because they are doing the restoration plantings within the 25-foot.
And I presume a waiver of the fee as well.
Yep.
Okay, well, we can get to that. All right. So the next item is a request for amended order of conditions for.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. For 1616 Great Plain Avenue, DEP file number 234-900. Request for amended order of conditions.
Yes, hi, Diane from Field Resources. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm here representing the homeowner at 1616 Great Plain Ave. We were recently in front of you for a notice of intent for a single-family home within the buffer to the intermittent portion of Fuller Brook off of Great Plain Ave. Unfortunately, the homeowner had family situations that is not allowing him to move to Needham. So he currently is looking to kind of change paths here with this project. So with that, we have filed with you this amended order of conditions. The proposed work that, if I could share the screen?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay, let me just, here we see this existing single-family home. And let me just slide this over. The homeowner now is proposing, again, I don't have what was currently approved, but this single-family home does show an improvement to the resource area in that the proposed structure has been reduced by 1,540 square feet. Additionally, the driveway has been reduced in size by 237 square feet, reducing the impervious on site by over 1,700 square feet. The distance from the wetland has also been improved, and we're moving it back just about another foot from the bordering vegetated wetland, which runs along the intermittent stream here at the front left corner of the house. Additionally, the proposed grading has been reduced just due to the size of the house being reduced, though we had to keep the house at the same, the type of concrete at the same elevation due to groundwater. The groundwater is somewhat high there. But with all these improvements, we did keep the infiltration the same. We also kept the plantings the same. So overall, I think the project does show an improvement to the resource area, and that we request that the commission grant the amended order for 1616 Great Plain Ave. And that with that, I will turn it over to the board.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioner have a comment? I looked at the original plan and compared it to the new plan, and it is, substantially smaller as reported.
Dave, if you'd like, I can pull up the two plans side by side,
Yeah.
both the originally approved.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I think it paints a pretty good picture about the change in footprint. So this was the originally proposed, what was originally accepted, and this is what they're going to be amending to. So you can see there's a decrease in footprint. As Diane mentioned, it's pulled back further from the wetland area. So just as a-
Driveway is smaller.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
primarily, I'm sorry, the homeowner did have a larger footprint because it was a wheelchair accessibility concern. So the footprint on the existing proposed house was due to that. And because they're not moving here, it's not necessary anymore. So that's why the reduction was made.
All right, great. Do any of the commissioners have any comment or question? If so, just raise your hand. I don't see any comments or questions. Staff, any comments?
No, it's all an improvement.
All right, so we need to vote on this, is that correct?
Yeah, so you need to vote to close. Oh, go ahead, Clay.
I don't know if you want to ask if anybody in the public has any questions or comments. I know this received some abutter interest just in what the changes were, but I don't believe we received any comments prior to the meeting about what was proposed.
No.
Any raised hands? Anybody in the public?
And there are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, so we never voted to open a hearing, so do we have to?
Well, you don't vote to open. You vote to close.
Okay. So
And
can
you can also, there isn't really a draft exhibit B because the conditions are all the same. So you can vote to close and then vote to issue the amended order at the same time if you'd like.
Okay, so can I have a motion to close this hearing for
Motion to close.
And also to issue the amended order of conditions for 1616 Great Plain Avenue, DEP file 234-900. So we had a motion to close. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, so let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Alina,
Aye.
and Dave. Aye. Okay,
I did have one quick question, and now Deb, with what you said, the same order. So is it, because I'm supposed to re-record?
So I am issuing an amended order.
Okay,
I'm just saying that the conditions aren't changing, so they don't have anything to review. So that's
Okay.
why I said they could vote, because I'm not going to be adding more conditions or taking conditions away. So it'll be
Okay.
the same. I just am doing an exhibit B that's going to refer to the new plan essentially. So I
Okay.
will issue and then you can record it.
okay,
So I'll let you know when it's ready.
okay, and 199 Maple, just wondering how that is going.
Clay issued that. So that's,
That
Okay,
was issued today.
oh, perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much and have a good evening.
thanks for waiting.
All right, bye-bye.
all right.
All right, so we're at the point, I know Needham Housing Authority has been waiting patiently. I think that the other two discussion items are going to be quick. And perhaps we could take those if they could just be patient for a few more minutes.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay.
Somebody here to discuss the water chestnut issue in Red Wing Bay? Or is this something you were gonna?
Did you send an invite to anyone, Clay?
I did. I sent an invite to Lisa Kumpf.
Yeah. Don't see her.
I don't see her. If she's in the attendees, maybe she can raise her hand, but
Okay.
Right, so let's go to
Could I
12.
ask a question about Red Wing Bay? Because it looks like to me like it's water lilies. Like, I don't know why it's water chestnut. I mean, I don't know, because it's flowering. Like I walk by it all, every day. I don't know.
I guess they've been having an ongoing effort of removing the water chestnut. And so they approached both us and the Dover Commission to get permission to do it within, the Charles River in our towns.
Yeah.
It's a homeowner?
No,
No.
so this is she's from the Charles River Watershed Association.
It's bad. It's bad this
All
year.
right,
Really bad.
well, why don't we wait till somebody
Okay.
representing this issue?
All right, so then we'll go to 12 Ivy Road.
Tree
Emma
removal.
Peterson is the homeowner there. Just a little background, I met her and her husband on site maybe like a month and a half ago or something like that. And so we were discussing the site conditions and they were doing some planting, some landscaping. And so they brought up they may want to do some potential tree removal. They have a lot of Norway maple on their property. So she did send me an email a few days ago saying that they were getting ready to remove the trees. So I mentioned our 2-to-1 tree replacement policy. So they had already done some native plantings of trees and shrubs that she would like to, take credit for as far as removing the trees. And also discuss, since they're Norway maple, whether we're still going to require that replacement. So feel free, Emma, when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Paul Malta. I'm
Hi.
a lawyer.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for your time tonight and your consideration. So yeah, Deb, as Deb mentioned, we have 5 mature Norway maples on one side of our house that are overhanging the roof, providing some considerable morning shade on our solar panel array that is on the roof, that are also shading some previously planted arborvitaes in that area. And there's considerable moss and sort of humidity buildup on that part of the house that's apparent in terms of the warping of the paint. There are 3 other smaller but still tall Norway maples. They've been previously trimmed, so they're basically just giant sticks that go up for a while, and there's a very small there's all the foliage is at the top, but they're basically just huge sticks that are sort of swaying right now. And so those are we would like to request to take those down as well, because they are sort of crowding, and we fear that they may prohibit the growth and the success of the shrubs and the other native plants that we have put there so far right now.
So Clay, they had sent over some pictures, and also on a plot plan, they did kind of sketch in where the proposed tree removal would take place. So those are plantings you've put in, right?
Yeah. So this is just a picture of the plantings.
Are these trees in the 100-foot, 50-foot, or 25-foot buffer zone? Do we know?
Probably the 25-foot, I would imagine. The wetland comes up pretty close.
So yeah, so the 5 mature ones are sort of right at the barrier between 508 Great Plain that you can see there, and we've talked with homeowners there and gotten their approval to take them down if we get approval here. But yeah, so those 5 there on the western side overhang considerably over the house.
You can show some more photos, I guess.
Yeah, so the one on the left.
So the one on the left there is Norway. The one to the right, I think, is some sort of birch, and we would leave that alone.
Same with
And that's another one that you can see has been trimmed over the years, and it's not visually pleasing either. These
Those
are
on the
the
side.
5 that are on the side that are sort of among the existing arborvitaes that were planted some time ago. I don't know.
Same with those.
Yeah, they're all sort of clumped together. And here you can see them, the overhang over the house.
And then these are the new plantings.
Yeah. So we've got some DeGroot arborvitaes, we've got some rhododendron, some red osier dogwood, some Virginia sweetspire, and the blue spruce, I believe. Then we've got a butterfly bush.
I think in total it was 14 shrubs, 3 trees.
And there's another, you can't, it's not in the ground, but we participated in on Earth Day. We picked up a tree at the library through, I can't remember the name of the organization, but we have a very small little planting that's will eventually make it into the ground, but right now we still have it in a pot.
Are these plantings in the 25-foot zone?
I think so. Those are pretty close to the wetland, right? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
I mean, they're definitely less than 100 feet, I would guess, somewhere in like the
Yeah, they're definitely,
Yeah.
In the 25 or 100, or we don't know.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't delineated. But just from when I was there, the wetlands come up pretty close.
All right, does any commissioners have any comments at this point?
So we're talking about everything's going on in the 25-foot zone, really? Are the 8 Norways within the 25-foot zone?
I think probably all of them except for one.
And I just want to say, no matter what kind of tree it is, trees are trees in 2-to-1 ratio. Or 4 shrubs per 1.
Right, that's all.
That's what they wanted to discuss with the commission, since they're Norway maples. They didn't know if there was any leeway.
All right, any other comments from any of the commissioners? Fred, you got your hand up?
Yes, so I had 2 questions. Is the rule 4-to-1 shrubs to replace 1 tree? And the second question is, are there any native trees they could plant that wouldn't shade their solar panels?
Oh, sorry, is that a question for us or?
I think so, yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The
Well,
question
I had
about
the same question as you for the 4-to-1. So we're more than happy to do lots of shrubs. And in terms of trees that, I mean, I guess it depends on the maturity and sort of the growth of the trees in terms of shading the solar panels.
I mean, we have the other side of the house
Yeah.
that would actually, we have space that we were thinking about planting more on that side anyway.
Mhm.
We could consult. I mean, we were working with a gardener who was helping us pick the best off of the list that you provided to us, Deb. She was helping us pick the ones that would thrive, given our space back here. So we could do another consultation to pick the best ones. But I think that side of the house has much more room. I think that's part of the problem, is that this side of the house is so crowded that we couldn't really replace trees there. That's like,
I know you had scheduled for the tree removal for tomorrow, right?
we canceled it.
Yeah, it's been canceled.
Okay.
Peter, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with Sue that Norway maples are difficult. If they're small, that's one thing. Once they get to the mature size, and those are big trees, then I think we have to count them as trees.
Okay, any other comments from the commissioners? I have a comment, which is, my understanding is, the commission has some discretion if somebody was proposing to remove 1 or 2 trees, but with the number of trees here, it seems to me that the proper procedure would be to have some kind of formal submittal, either request for determination of applicability or a notice of intent with the proper documentation. This is what we require typically. So do we have any comment about that from the commissioners? Do we have
I agree.
So I had told them that, if it was 1 or 2 trees, that Clay and I can normally approve that in-house with the mitigation, but that the number of trees pushed it beyond us to the commission, and then you would direct them as to what you were requiring.
I mean, we don't even know where the wetland is at this point. Have we waived? Can we waive those requirements? I don't know. I'm just throwing out a question to the commissioners, or are we going to request that a more formal submittal be presented to the commission?
Would this involve an NOI or something simpler than that? Could it be something simpler than that?
I think it could be an RDA.
Yeah,
I agree. And also it'd be nice to know where the wetland is. So we
Right.
have it, because then when you replace them, then you have to, watch them and make sure they're okay. The other thing is, in terms of getting credit for something you've already planted, that would be something we've never done before. Something that exists and say, well, that's a credit, for replacement. Because it already exists. You haven't cut the tree down yet. So I don't think that precedent has ever happened before. Even if it's native, you could have 1 million native plants and it doesn't offset the fact that you're cutting down trees in the buffer zone. So that's my only comment.
So you're looking for a survey that's gonna show the wetland line and all of that, correct?
the proposed trees to be removed. And the planting plan.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, like the plantings were done in the last month and a half. They weren't
Like here when we moved in.
Yeah.
This is the first full summer that we've lived here, so it's sort of our first, like it's been our first chance to kind of get a hold of, or really think about the outdoor space. So that's why we're doing all these things now.
I think the commission appreciates that, but there are regulations and there are rules that have been established for.
Of
doing
course,
this.
yeah.
And so I guess we're just asking you to follow those rules.
Mhm.
So the next.
That's why we're here.
So the next step would be to submit either a request for determination of applicability or notice of intent.
Can you just clarify what those are and what that requires from us?
Right, I think there's plenty of information on the Conservation Commission website that would describe what the requirements are, but I would say basically you need to identify where the wetlands are and identify the trees that you're going to take down, the species and the size, and then identify your proposed mitigation for the trees that you're going to take down, which according to our guidelines, which is also on the website, 2 trees for every tree taken down or 4 shrubs.
And I'm happy to talk you guys through the process.
Yeah, Fred, you have your hand up, or was that
Yeah, I did have my hand up and actually Deb just answered my question, which was, whether someone could help them because they're obviously motivated to, eliminate the invasive trees and put in something that's going to add to the quality. So if someone could advise them on good choices and where they might be sited, then that might help too. Good.
I was going to ask the same thing. Yeah.
Will the commission let us know what the final decision is on whether or not the plants that we've planted can be part of our mitigation? Because I think we would start to run out of space on our property too, or it would like crowd out the plants, that we've planted already.
Are there shrubs involved that you've already planted?
Yes. There's 14 shrubs that we planted in the last, it was like in May and June.
So that I guess I'm talking to the other commission members too. Those could be considered, correct? I'm just.
Well, Allison
the
had
commission members.
given her opinion.
Would they have to be native?
I think what they planted is native.
Yeah.
But Debbie can help you. Debbie will lead you through it.
Of course, I think my question was just, we would need to know whether or not the plants that we've planted are going to count or not as we come up with the plan for
So I
you
guess,
all.
Dave, you should probably go through the commission and ask their
Yeah,
opinion,
okay,
so
so
they have direction.
I know Allison did express some objection, but let's just go through, like, Sue, do you have a strong feeling?
If they're native shrubs and they've been planted within the buffer zone, I'm fine with that, you know, to count as 4 per one tree.
Okay, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a bit of a slippery slope. But I think that we should consider, providing some leeway when it's been so recent. I guess we at least need to confirm that all those are native shrubs, because I wasn't so sure when they were showing the pictures, everything was native. But
Right, that's a good point. Fred?
Yeah, I would say I would agree with Reed, but being new, I don't want to I don't want to speak with authority on this. I think the blue spruce, for example, is not native to this area. So going through each one, I think that would, you could get some consultation on that.
Isn't everything from the list?
I thought so.
Yeah, everything that we just gave the list that we got from Debbie to the gardener, and so everything that's planted was on that list. So,
Yeah, I gave them.
Okay,
Okay,
that's a blue Colorado spruce. I mean, I don't know. Never mind.
Peter,
yeah, that was the one that jumped out at me too.
Peter, do you have any feeling?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I suppose we could roll these all into the same project and do this sort of retroactively. I do agree with Fred that we'd need careful documentation on the plants that were planted, what they were, how big they were, those sorts of things, and then we can proceed with the calculations for the 5 trees to be replaced.
Okay, Allison? Paulina?
Oh, can't hear you, Allison. She's
Oh,
gone.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I already said it. I think that, unfortunately, I think it's not in order. In other words, that the trees were going to get cut down and you planted them before you cut the trees down. Now you want to cut the trees down. It seems like it's backwards. I know I'm being kind of a pain about it. And I'm not saying that it's not good that you didn't do that, but it wasn't done with our knowledge or review at all. And I guess we can, the commission can decide to do whatever, can decide to do it retroactively. I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope. That's all. That's my own opinion. And I
I
guess
just want to clarify that we did contact, this is why we had Debbie come out to the property before we planted anything, because we wanted to clarify what we needed approval to do and what not. And then we were told that as long as we were planting native species, anything on the list, that it was okay to proceed. So that's all that we've done.
But that's different than using them as replacements.
Okay. But you said, before you said this was done without you said this was done without our knowledge, and we're not doing anything without your knowledge. We've
Oh, well,
come
no,
here
but
to-
I didn't, I'm sorry, but without the commission's knowledge, I didn't know about this. Was this brought up before, Debbie?
No, it was just I met
It
them
was
on
informal,
site
yeah.
and said that they could plant native species. It's an exempt activity if they wanted to plant.
Yeah, that's an exempt activity, but then. Yeah, I mean, that's something else. That's what I meant, that I didn't know. I didn't know that you wanted to use those, I didn't know that it was happening. I didn't know that you wanted to use those as replacements for these trees.
Yeah, that wasn't obviously discussed.
Yeah, that was never brought. That's not, we're talking about it now. That's why the meeting is happening. So, but I'm in the minority, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be unanimous.
Nina, do you want to weigh in here?
I'm only concerned if this is gonna set a precedent that if somebody's not gonna replace a tree with a tree, they could just put in a few shrubs instead. I don't know.
Well,
It-
our policy is if you take
If
down
there isn't room to do 2-to-1 for trees,
and 4 to
that
1.
they do allow some 4-to-1 shrubs. It's basically based on space.
Was there space in that area for tree mitigation?
It's been a while since I was there, so I don't know.
Well, we're asking the applicant to submit a plan. So I think what we're discussing is whether or not they can use the previously planted shrubs as credit for replacement, and
Right.
I think they can.
Otherwise, I mean, everything, I agree with Sue and what Reed's comments. Follow through.
Okay. Fred, you had your hand up, is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that was inadvertent.
All right, Sue, you have your hand up.
I do. I just want to mention too, I'm not sure if they're aware of a possible fee too within the 25 foot. So I mean, there'd be lots of things to weigh. I think when the RDA is put before us, there'd be a few things to weigh. It is a different situation. Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of agree with the consensus here that we would consider these previously planted shrubs as replacements, provided that the proper documentation is provided in the plan, and that we're asking the applicant to submit either a request for a determination of applicability or a notice of intent for the work that they're planning that would identify the trees, that would identify the mitigation, and identify where the wetland is, which is our normal procedure. So
I guess I just wanted to be clear, since we're setting this precedent, just to record or, document that there are a bunch of mitigating factors here. Given that they met with Debbie, new homeowners, et cetera. This is not something we're gonna regularly do.
Yep. All right, any other comments? Sue, you got your hand up, or is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I already did. I'm sorry. I take it down.
All right.
Can we just ask one quick clarifying question just about the timeline? We'll work on getting the proposal or this RDA to you all, but is this something that you review regularly? Are there certain times? Yeah, I just am curious about that.
No, we meet every other Thursday.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
So we just need to have all your information 2 weeks before the meeting.
Okay.
Because the abutters need to be notified, a legal ad has to go in the paper.
Okay.
So there's a few steps, but feel free to give me a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll call you tomorrow if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all. It's
Thank
good
you.
to meet everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so now, last but not least, Reg Foster from the Needham Housing Authority has been patiently waiting for months now to get on our agenda.
Learning that I think the Conservation Commission is the hardest working board in the entire town, I must say.
Right, that's certainly true.
Interesting assortment of things you've had before you tonight. So thank you very much for the time. I'm asking Dan Shannon there from BH&A. I can see he's got his mute on and his camera on to join us here. And the other members of his team, which we'll introduce in a minute. I think in the attendee list, Debbie, there's Chris Moyer from the Cambridge Housing Authority. If you might promote, or Clay, you might promote.
Yeah, that's Clay's wheelhouse.
And am I missing any? Then Nancy Johnson is there. Is that from, I think from BH&A?
That's correct.
And do you, let's see, is there any other stragglers here? Margaret Moran might have been attending, but may have had to log off to the lateness of the hour. And she's the head of the Cambridge Housing Authority team. So I'll just do a brief introduction here and then turn things over to Dan. We were last before you on March 9th. We were in the beginning of the middle of the conceptual design. And on June 30th, last month, we finished it. And I believe Debbie's provided you a Dropbox link where you can download any and all of the 200 or 300 pages of that you wish. Although one appendix is, of course, of most interest to this committee, which is the wetlands study. And our purpose to being here tonight is one, to just sort of give you a brief update on how the project is turning out, particularly with respect to the wetlands that surround the site. And to check into you with you, there's 2 or 3 design issues that have come up during this process that are in your sort of jurisdiction. Dan will describe those, and we just get a sense of the commission members, how we're thinking, what you think about how we're thinking of handling them. And then lastly, just the general input and guidance that might come up just from seeing this where we're at right now. We're now in schematic design, full speed ahead, and expect to have that finished in the September time period. And ultimately, we'll be working closely with the planning board to bring some zoning articles before spring 2024 town meeting that would enable us to go forward with this project. But let me not rob Dan of any of his speaking points here. Dan Chen is the principal in charge of the BH&A architect, engineer, designer team, assembled a number of different disciplines that work under Dan. And I'll let Dan, why don't I let you go ahead and introduce the other members of your team that are here tonight.
Okay, great. Yes, my name is Dan Chen, BH+A Architects. With me tonight, I have Rihanna Summer from Epsilon Associates. She's our wetland consultant on this project. I also have our civil engineer, Anthony Donato from Hancock Associates. Our landscape architect, Curtis Puncher from Ground Inc. is also on this call. And we have one of my colleagues, Nancy Johnson, who's project architect with us. So the purpose tonight is really is to one, as Rich said, we've concluded concept report, and so now we're moving to schematic design. And as the building massing, we're at the stage of massing of the building, which also we have held several conversations with the neighbors. So there are some opposing forces at this project where, given the size and the massing of the buildings, there's some desire from the neighborhood to push the building away from Linden Street, which I'll show quickly through my slides, you'll see. As well, then, as you know, the site is bordering within a wetland area. So with that, I will share my screen here with the commissioners, and let me know if you could see them clearly. Great. So today's July 27, 2023. We were last here March 9th of this year. So just a very quick sort of site delineation or site area at Linden Street. We're to the north of, or rather to the east of us, or sorry, to the west of us is the High Rock Middle School. This is the Linden Street here. The site is surrounded by Linden Street, and this is the former railway that now is a sort of walking trail. This is the Greymont site here, Urick Road and Murphy Road, and then so our site is also south to this is Great Plain Avenue here. So next slide, we reflagged the wetland delineation of the site. And this by Epsilon Associates, and this diagram here is to show you where formerly the site has been delineated, and so there are some minor variations between what was delineated here before and what we have done back, or what we completed in March of 2023. So these lines, the red lines are 25 feet, no disturb zones. 50 feet is the orange, and 100 feet is the blue ones. And on the site, there's these blue lines are where the current wetland flags have been delineated. There is an isolated border vegetable wetland on this corner, which is outside of our property line, but it is on the intersection of Linden Street and Sylvan Roads, the 0 Sylvan lot. And then the next slide. So the current project we have at the existing site, there's 18 buildings on Linden Street, which we call the Linden site. There's a community center also along Linden Street. Then there's and each of these buildings have 4 studios for a total of 72 400 plus square feet studio units. And then within these 5 buildings on the chamber site, there's 16 units in each of these 2-story buildings, and that of 80 units, therefore a total of 152 studio units on the site. The goal for this project really is to provide and to study, and part of that concept study was to understand the density and the building massing that can be accommodated as a redevelopment of the site. And the diagram here is illustrating within today's condition, the existing condition, there are roughly 1,136 square feet within the 25 feet NDZ zone here, which is these sort of little yellow areas. And there's currently 15,000 plus of building that's existing building that are within the 50 feet buffer zone, which is what you see here in red. So these are really the base metrics for which that then we then start to look at for the next several our redevelopment options. For next 3 slides, I'm going to show you roughly. Slide 1 shows this area here, which is the current a concrete intermittent stream culvert here. 2 is in this area. Slide 2 is here, where you will see that there's a concrete culvert with a intermittent stream line that sort of runs along here. And then slide 3 is at a isolated border isolated wetland that's on the corner of Sylvan and Linden Street. So here's that slide 1. We're sort of looking north towards the site. On your right, this is Maple Street and the border neighborhood. These photos were taken earlier this year when one of our many site visits. Slide 2, this is the concrete culvert just behind the Chambers Street, and this is looking south towards the site, and you see the condition of that wetland. And then this is slide 3 is at the corner of Sylvan Road. This is off the property line. However, the 100 feet buffer does impact within the property line of this redevelopment for Needham Housing Authority. And so this is what was in the concept report that we've proposed and that these are 2 buildings that we're proposing, phase 1A and 1B, and they will be built in separate phases. In fact, there's 3 buildings being proposed that each building will be built at different times, and this is due to the ability to accommodate relocations as well as other factors. This area here is being proposed as a parking lot, and then we have we have 2 buildings, a green space between them, central green, and then additional parking sort of to this side of phase 1B, to the south side of phase 1B, and then phase 2 is a larger building. And within the 25 feet NDZ, there's about 130 square feet into the 25 feet zone is in this area here that you see the little yellow here. And then there's the red areas are the intrusions into the 50 feet area, no disturb, well, the 50 feet border vegetative wetland. And so that sort of takes to a 47 or 45% reduction from the current incursion. So the goal here is it is an improvement. In our current concept study, we are offset back from 25 feet from Linden Street. And the comments that we heard from the neighbors that in the several public meetings that we have with them is that there's a real sort of hope that the housing authority can push this design back away, sort of creating, these are 3-story buildings that create a much more comfortable buffer along Linden Street. So as we are moving, as we're moving into schematic design right now, we've been sort of tweaking the building massing to accommodate, if we can, when we can, sort of maximizing offsets from Linden Street, and as well as sort of understand the sort of limitations what we can have relative to the wetland. And of course, the goal here is to stay outside of the 25 feet no disturb zone as we or as much as possible. So in this option, where we currently continue to have the 131 square feet into the NDZ zones of this parking lot, and then within the 50 feet zone, because of the building has been pushed back, and now we have increased around another additional 2,000 square feet into the 50 feet buffer zones of this new, or of this building massing design. The rest of these buffer zones intrusions remains the same as in the concept report. And lastly, we again, because we're in schematic design, we're exploring options in order to balance the offset back from Linden Street, as well as simplifying the building massing. In this option, we have further increased sort of the intrusions for another 2,000 plus square feet into the 50 feet buffer zone here. So now it's a 12,000 square feet intrusion with a 23% reduction from the existing site. So these really are because we're working with building massing, and this is why we think it now is a good time, or a good sort of opportune time to be in front of the commission to really get a sense of your guidance on this. The next couple slides I'll show very quickly. These are, again, you can find this in our concept report of the landscaping plan of the 2 buildings, where we have 2 courtyards and then a central green, and these are surface parking lots. There's a trail that goes through the site, and then this is phase 1A, 1B, phase 2. This is a sort of blow up, if you will, of a close up of the plan that was in the concept report, which now we're continuing to tweak as we are in schematic design. One thing to note here is that these are trees that are existing, and then the dotted trees are the ones that are being proposed. So, and I'll talk about trees at the very end of this presentation. So here's looking at phase 1B. this surface parking, and then the courtyard up between or in phase building 1B. And lastly, a blow up of a courtyard, as those two courtyards are fairly identical. The programs themselves are primarily pavers, perennials, plantings, and some trees with seating areas and for different sort of activities within the courtyard. And so. And the last couple slides, just to give the commissioner a sense of the trees that were along Linden here. This is taken out of the existing condition landscape and arborist report. We do have an arborist report that documented all the trees on site and species and their condition. And so, and again, so here is looking down Linden Street. On this street, this is sort of the backside of between one of the these existing Linden building and the bordering of the wetland here. So and here you see again the image of the wetland, and then and so finally these last three slides I want to touch on is that this is our proposed buildings. Again, this is a extraction out of the current concept report where the blue colors, or rather the green colors, are trees. These circles are trees that are numbered, and then you can identify them by what species they are, the size, and the health. The health is the green dots here are trees in relatively good health. The ones are in red are not so great. The ones in yellow are in fair condition. And then these sort of large blobs of color are groups where within the 25 feet zones, identifying shrubs, trees within, and these are identified also as in the report. And as part of our current design, what this diagram is really showing us is that we probably will be looking at removing or replacing 70 to 75% of the trees with the redevelopment proposal. The arborist report is in the concept report as is available for download. Primarily the trees on site are crab apples, hemlocks, and there's one or two Norway maples, and then the shrubs are primarily some of these are invasives, bittersweets in the dense areas, or and there's some under bushes and what have you, and our landscape architect may be able to speak to more of this to answer your question. So I know it's late, it's 9:40. I appreciate your time, and I open to any questions that you may have for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I guess I'll just go through the commissioners and solicit any questions or comments. Sue?
No comment.
Okay, Reed?
Yeah, so on the site plan, it looks like there's a portion of it on the in the service parking lot in front of phase 2. It looks like there's a portion of that service parking lot that's going to be within the 25-foot zone that's not shown. It's just a little sliver.
This piece here.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. Yeah, no, you're right. This area here should be within 25 feet. But I think also what we're trying to do is I think we have a little bit of flexibility. So for example, this parking lot to the north of phase 1A, these lots has been laid out based on Needham parking requirements, but we may be able to tweak this so that we can stay out a little bit. However, this area, right, we may have to sort of, with the understanding, the goal is always try to stay outside as much as we can, obviously, the 25 feet. So
understood. Yeah, I just want to make sure it's accurately shown.
If I might jump in on that point, Reed. Also, the sort of norm for a long time in Needham has been 1.5 parking spaces per unit. And we've been talking very actively with the planning board and planning department that, that's really overkill for our kind of people that live in our place, in our apartments. We have data to prove it to them. And so we're very hopeful that it will wind up with a 0.5 to 1 unit ratio, which will then, greatly reduce the impervious surface, which I think is a good thing to do here.
That would be, yeah, I appreciate the efforts on that. So that'd be great. And then also it wasn't clear to me, but is the proposed walking path in the back and patio, that's all outside the 25-foot zone?
I think, let me get back to the, I believe some of these may be inside the 25 feet as what we have drawn. So we would need to look at that.
While Dan's looking at that, I mean, what is the comment there? Because we have a lot of the site that is really not usable.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure
we're
that
asking about, but
so we can understand.
Yeah,
we're
no,
hoping
actually
that-
they are, sorry, they are outside of the 25 feet zone. So you can see, I just wasn't too clear, but you can see that the walking paths here, this is the 50 feet buffer line in this area. And then this is the 25 feet back here.
Great.
But we'll make sure that, at this level, we want to make sure that we can stay out as much as we can.
But we are hoping to use other parts of the property off to the south, would be the left-hand side of your screen of what you have been looking at, for possible walking paths through around the marshes and the undeveloped area, for recreational use for our residents and other people who want to.
Okay, Fred, any comment?
I was wondering, is there any chance of making the parking areas permeable?
We are talking about that as well as in permeable pavers. The issue is that often is maintenance, whether a grass creek gets destroyed. There may be products that we would be able to allow some sort of permeability on the parking. So that's a topic that we would be exploring. The other thing I will say is that as per regulation, all stormwater runoff will be mitigated on site with stormwater management, primarily going to be under these two parking surface parking lot currently.
Okay, Peter, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, I would say overall, the work that's even though it's within our buffers, the work that's in previously disturbed landscape built areas, I mean, I have no problem with the plans that you've proposed. I think that once you get closer to the area that's currently wild, I think the commission is going to have to look much more closely at what you propose, particularly things around the bank of the stream. But that's that's an issue for the future, it seems to me.
Right. So this would be sort of these areas here, almost close to the property line. And actually, I could go to the tree. So here is what we identified. There's underbush. There's also some trees in here. This is 25 feet zone, and so previous line disturbed is that there's only certain areas of this was disturbed, but most of this was wild, as you called it.
And I'd like to add a comment there. Dan, if you can pull up those photos of the culverts there. So one of the things that if anybody who would walk behind there, it's not, you don't exactly see it with these pictures, but these culverts were built a very long time ago, and they're in very, very poor condition, so that they are broken down in a number of sections, and their trees have grown in, and kind of basically it basically won't last another 50 years. Let's just put it that way, and so there's an issue that we'll be raising with DPW, I guess, for starters, but we'll certainly CC Debbie. And we're going to have a DRT meeting with the town staff in late August, where we're going to say, what is it that should be done about this particular culvert, which as best I know, takes all the sort of stormwater that falls sort of upstream of us, uphill of us, and carries it along the property line, sort of zigzags across our property line and the Maple Street Avenue backyard property line, off to the right on your diagram there. So that to the right is going northerly now along Linden Street towards Oak Street, and disappears into another underground pipe, and I think eventually winds up in Rosemary Pond. So, you know, there's, you know, something that's been noticed by our team is that, you know, we have to sort of think intelligently and work together to figure out what happens to all of that.
Okay, Allison, do you have any questions, comments?
Yes, one of the things is as you get farther into schematic design and DD, that that the grading is like pretty advanced, and also that it's constructible, that in the second scheme, which I don't think you're going with the one that's a little farther away from the wetland. Make sure you can build the building and not be in the 25. Yeah, I don't think this one is as constructible as the other one in terms of the wetlands, because you really can't build it. I mean, if you have a 3-story building, you're going to have some kind of setback to be able to build it.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that, obviously, and how much is going to be disturbed. And if it's within the 25 and it's an undisturbed right now, that might be an issue.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm kind of sad that the courtyards all face north. It's going to be dark.
No, it's facing the west towards the.
Oh, because I saw North Arrow. I saw North Arrow that was
Yeah,
on the plan.
that was.
Is that wrong?
No, that's incorrect. And let me,
Oh, okay.
because the confusing part here is when we started the plan, north is to our right instead of up.
Oh,
and
okay, so
that's
it's
why-
good. So it won't be
Yeah.
dark. Okay. The
Right.
North Arrow was confusing because you do have a plan that has it
Yes.
up.
Well, you are
Could've
really
changed that.
sharp-eyed. I'm very impressed.
And I just thought, oh no, you do all these beautiful courtyards and it's going to be, a 3-story building will just like cast all the shade on it. But it's
Right.
good. I'm glad that's not the case. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Oh, well, one other thing I wanted to say about permeable paving, that the city, when they did Rosemary Pond Complex and they had this new parking lot, they did it all in permeable asphalt, which is really just base course. You do a vacuum it, but it just doesn't have the binder, the running
Yep.
wearing course on it.
Right.
And it worked quite well. And it's not that expensive versus going and buying, having big parking lots made out of permeable pavers, which there are thousands that are there, but you can do it a little bit less expensively if you can get them to vacuum it once or twice a year. I don't know if that's possible, but that might be nice to at least look into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We actually designed the Rosemary. swimming
Oh,
pool,
okay.
so
That's right, you did. I remember that now.
yeah. So that's something that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Paulina? Any questions or comments, Paulina?
No additional comments or questions.
Okay. I just have one comment when you're talking about stormwater and permeable pavers. Right now, I think you mentioned that your concept would be to put infiltration chambers underneath the parking lot for the runoff from the buildings and from the parking lots. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's incompatible with permeable pavers, right? I mean,
Right.
You can't do both.
No, and we have a preliminary calculation in the concept report, so that it's granted preliminary, but in terms of the area that it's going to take under the surface, and it's not it's nowhere near sort of the entire surface or entire parking surface. But it is something that we need to be, we need to coordinate with.
Yeah, and I think, you know, according to the stormwater handbook, permeable pavers, it's more than just permeable pavers. There's like a 2-foot subgrade that needs to, you know, be designed in order to, you know, to have a parking lot, you know, infiltrate water. So,
right.
I think a while ago, I think Reg had mentioned that you were also maybe considering putting solar panels over the parking lot. Is that still a consideration?
We may have solar panels on the roof because it's a pitch roof design, and so we did not include solar panels over the surface lot, but it may, as the design move into later phase, that there will be on-site solar generation for energy use.
Dave, if I may jump in here, you know, where this is coming from is from the Climate Action Plan Committee effort that is working in parallel here, and I think it's going to present some sort of a report to town meeting next spring. And so one of the things, many things they're looking at is, they call it solar canopies. You know, why not put in suitable sites canopy, you know, like canopies of solar panels over parking areas. And so that's what I mentioned to you, I think, in passing at one time. And I don't think we really looked at that very closely. But you know, obviously we want to be a good municipal citizen when that climate action plan actually comes out and gets published. You know, we want to try to anticipate what might be coming from that. The other item that I would be interested in commission members' comments is geothermal. You know, many of you probably know that it's one of the most you know, economical, long-term economical and climate-friendly ways of going when it comes to putting HVAC in. And the town has actually done it already in a couple of buildings. The big problem from our point of view is it costs. It's one of the 5 options we have for the HVAC. If you look at that section of it costs about $10 million more than, you know, a perfectly acceptable air source heat pump option instead. But my question for the commission members are, you know, what have you taken positions on well drilling near wetland areas, you know, outside of the 25-foot zone? I mean, you know, the Board of Health actually is the lead agency in regulating this, but I know they asked for you know, comment and opinions from the Conservation Committee. Has that come up before, and is there a policy there? The location of the wells. In other words, if the wells are drilled, these are 500-foot deep wells, plus or minus, that where the heat exchange takes place. And you know, if it's outside the 25-foot no disturb zone, then, you know, and again, we're not asking for an official ruling on this or anything like that, but is that okay?
To my
But
knowledge,
when you apply to the health department, they ask all the different
Right.
departments for their comment on it.
Comments, exactly. I don't know if anything's come up yet in Needham on that with the geothermal installations.
yeah, I was just going to say that, to my knowledge, nothing has come up to the Conservation Commission, but Deb and Clay may have more long-term view of this. I think, you know, it's worth mentioning that I believe what you had said previously is that the geothermal wells that you are proposing are closed loop wells.
Correct.
You know, there are different types of wells. One type, you're actually pumping up groundwater, using
Right.
it to cool your heat exchanger, and then re-injecting the groundwater.
Right.
And that is not what you guys are looking at.
No, this is more, that's really not being done and we wouldn't do that. So in essence, there's no disturbance to the sort of surface ecology that's kind of the primary oversight responsibility of the Conservation Commission, other than when you actually drill the well. You've got to put up your berms and your, make sure it doesn't leach into the, but other than that, once you drill the well, it's like drilling a water well. If any that's ever come up, you drill it down, and then the only difference is with a water well, you have a well head that sticks about 2 or 3 feet above the surface, and with a geothermal well, it's all buried and you don't even know it's there.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners or staff?
No, I think I spent about an hour with these guys last Friday via Zoom, kind of giving them some pointers and just talking about they should mainly be concentrating on the 25-foot because we wouldn't be enacting the 50-foot buffer in this area because it wouldn't be considered wildlife habitat. And also the 2-to-1 tree replacement policy, they should be looking at that. And I did talk about the permeable pavement and just, that might take some upkeep. So to think about that. But, I think we had a good meeting last week as well.
All right, good. Well, thanks, Reg and Dan and the rest of the team. A good presentation. I like your graphics. We see some weird graphics on the commission. It's really refreshing to see some very clear depictions of what you're trying to do. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll be back in a few months when we have a lot more detail and do another check-in when the time is right.
Thank you.
Right.
Great.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's almost 10 o'clock.
I think you have one order to,
Can we do that real quick, do you think?
has anyone read the Exhibit A?
I read it.
Oh, look, Peter also, I think, is giving the thumbs up.
Do we want to go through that quickly? I don't mind, but I know some people might want to.
I'll do a quick hit. I mean, it was a pretty standard. So this is for 103 Wayne Road. The biggest thing is making sure we get motions to waive the 25-foot if the commission is okay with that, but all work within the 25-foot is entirely limited to restoration plantings. So staff opinion would be to issue the waiver and waive the waiver fee because it's not a trade-off. They're not doing other work in the 25 and mitigating. It's all just mitigation work.
Can't they do that without? I mean, isn't that exempt activity?
Technically, planting of native species is exempt. I think when you get into a project like this, since it's tied to mitigation, they can't just not do it. So I think issuing the waiver doesn't only authorize them to do it, but it furthers the idea that is mitigation to allow them to do the work under the order.
All right, so let's.
And then if I just pull up the order of conditions real quickly, so we have the language for the waivers. We have the test pit information they'll have to complete before conducting the work. They'll have to prove that the infiltration units are suitable in that soil. I did put in a special condition for permanent bounds or permanent markers for that 25-foot restoration area. I also included a little bit of language. I know that there was comments about not using surveyor bounds, so I put in a little bit of language about rebar, birdhouses, or similar installations. Aside from that, it's pretty much stock conditions, O&M plan, pre-construction site visit, DEP file signs, stockpiling management, things like that.
Okay, so first we vote on the order of conditions.
So I think first would be the motion for the waiver of the 25-foot.
Actually, could I just ask Clay a question? And the 2-year monitoring was still in there too?
Yes, there was a requirement for the 2-year monitoring. It also spelled out the plantings themselves.
Thanks.
Okay.
Just one other question, since I think this came up in the, when we were talking about it, in terms of stockpiling, do we need to, or is this already covered, stockpiling outside the 100-foot zone?
Stockpiling in general is covered in the general order of conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a specific condition that says that it has to remain outside the buffer zone. There are stock conditions that we use to make sure that it's enclosed within its own erosion controls, and that it's tarped or removed if it's going to be left for more than a period of
30 days, I think.
Yeah, the 30 days is actually for the entire site. So if they demo the house, tear up the site, and then just stop working for whatever reason, budget or whatnot, they have to stabilize. They have to put something down to stabilize the entire site. But yes, there are special conditions about stockpiling management, and I can include a condition to make sure it's.
I guess just since they committed to it on the hearing, why not put it in there? Unless there's a reason not to.
Okay, any other comments before we vote? All right, so first, can I have a motion to waive the prohibition of work within the 25-foot zone for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file 234-910?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion. Let's vote. Sue?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Alina?
Aye.
And Dave votes aye. Okay, so now we are going to vote to waive the fee for waiver of fee for the 25-foot work in the 25-foot zone. So can I have a motion to waive the fee for work within the 25-foot zone for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file number 234-910?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. Let's vote. Sue?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Paulina?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay, so finally, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file 234-910?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. We'll vote. Sue?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Red?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Helena?
Aye.
And Dave votes aye. So that concludes our agenda, except for the minutes. And I would propose we push those off again unless there's a big objection.
So we have, I think, what do we have, like 7 sets of minutes at this
Yeah,
point?
maybe could we package those all together and then at our next meeting, vote on them in one group?
Sure, you guys want some bedtime reading? We can do that.
Is that okay with everybody?
All right, but we have to vote the next meeting.
The good news is that the next meeting is looking quite a bit lighter. I don't believe I'm posting any legal notices for new filings, so we should just have whatever's continued tonight, and if there's any residuals like COC requests.
Sounds good to me.
Let's do that first on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I guess we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, Sue,
I
Reed,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Allison,
Hi.
Alina. And Dave votes aye.
all 7 of us were here tonight, right?
Oh, full house.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is
it wasn't-
the second
good.
consecutive meeting that went to 10 o'clock. Let's hope.
They promised me it wouldn't take this long, when I
All right,
agreed
so-
to join.
Well, yeah, but now we have you.
I know, I'm just kidding.
So Reed and Fred can't invoke the newbie defense anymore.
True.
You're indoctrinated 100% now.
That's right.
Well, if that's the brevity of the initiation period, you're a very kind group.
No, puppy, no.
Okay, well, thanks, thanks, everybody. And
Thanks, guys.
see you in a couple weeks. All right.
Already.
good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.